overall, when I first heard the song, I thought it was about somebody cheating on her. And after I listened to it again, like 50 times, I realized, hello and welcome to Therate. We are back from a vacation and excited to be here. We are analyzing the song The Black Dog today, and we are not therapy, but we are super fun, and we're glad that you're here. Katie is going to go ahead and share with us the introduction for the song.
Yeah, so we've chosen the song The Black Dog because one of our probably biggest fans ever was enthusiastic and encouraged us to select this song. It's Jared. He emailed and said, big fan of the podcast. Could you talk about The Black Dog? It's pretty intense. And Ashley and I agree. It is an intense song.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It took me a while to process this song after hearing it. I think after like maybe the 50th time, I was like, okay, I think I'm grasping it now.
The 50th time. That feels accurate. Ashley, can you give us a summary of the song and then we'll talk about the specific lyrics that we're discussing today?
Yeah, that sounds good. So this song kind of starts quiet, and then there's a lyric that says, "Old habits die screaming." And then there's this like, it's like drums or some sort of instrumental that does similar to what she does in Florida, where there's this like banging.
Mhm.
And it's very like shocking when it happens. But she like screams those lyrics, "Old habits die screaming," and then she like goes back to like this soft sound. And overall, when I first heard the song, I thought it was about somebody cheating on her. And after I listened to it again, like 50 times, I realized I don't think that that's what happened. I think it's somebody who she used to have access to their location. They didn't turn it off, and she like noticed that they were out having fun, and I don't know if she's like assuming there was somebody else or if she somehow knows that, but that's kind of what the song is about, like her processing seeing somebody go to the Black Dog, which is a bar in London.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, kind of like what I would just add to all of that, great summary, Ashley, is that the song kind of mimics somebody being really sad and like reflecting and then getting angry and then like yelling their anger and having like the sadness of like we used to be close and like how dare you not be close to me anymore? Like how could we have lost this? I still miss what we had. And the idea of you moving on is really hard or intolerable to me.
Yeah, which is just the mess of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Like grief
Totally.
is so messy. So I love that you named both of those emotions.
Oh, of course. Ashley, what are the lyrics that you're going to highlight in our debrief today?
We get a little spicy Taylor in these lyrics. So towards the end are what I'm going to focus on. "Do you hate me? Was it hazing? For a cruel for I can't say that word. For a cruel fraternity, I
Hey,
pledged."
you got it.
I did it. And I still mean it. "Old habits die screaming." 6 weeks of bleeding. Taylor, why did you have to do this to us? 6 weeks of breathing clean air. I still miss the smoke. And then a few lines later, "Even if I die screaming, I hope you hear it."
I hearing the lyrics you selected, I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about it, Ashley. My lyrics are my longings stay unspoken, and I may never open up the way I did for you. You said I needed a brave man, then proceeded to play him, and I hope it's shitty in the black dog. Similar to Ashley, 6 weeks of breathing clean air. I still miss the smoke. And the final lyric is hire a priest to come exorcise your demons. My demons, not yours, mine.
She has such complicated lyrics that seem to flow so well when I'm singing along, but when I'm just saying it, it just doesn't flow quite out as well as they typically do.
And we're also not like that's not like a whole stanza. There's just something about like we're just kind of naming like lyrics from the song
That's
and
so true.
yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into our first question. What questions would you ask if this song were a client, Ashley?
So I'm going to kind of open the floor for this first question, and I'm curious if you have a strong opinion or not. If not, it's okay. Having someone's location, beneficial, painful? Do we go there? Do we not? When do we do this?
Straight up gut response answer is unless this is between like for safety reasons, like you're traveling or someone's gonna go, like a kid's gonna go on a trip or something or whatever. I've never seen it go well for somebody to have that information in a relationship, just accessible at all times. I think there are some exceptions. In general, my observation has not been that this goes well. What do you think, Ashley?
So I have mixed emotions about it. I think if you are married, that's that feels different to me than like getting to know somebody or like casually dating.
Mhm.
But even then, I think the motivation is a big key factor there, like safety, if that's your motivation, okay. If it's like a controlling thing, don't love that. So I have a personal friend who shares my her location with me. I don't share my location with her, but every once in a while I'll just look at it for fun and be like, "Hey, hope you enjoyed your Starbucks." But it has no meaning to me. So shout out to that friend, you know who you are. But I don't know if like a dating relationship, if it would be beneficial, unless it's like short term, like, hey, this is where I parked or whatever.
Sure. And listeners, if you've got thoughts, feelings, stories, experiences, throw it in the comments. We definitely want to know.
Ooh,
Because I would be really interested to know, like, where when somebody was like maybe in a partner dating relationship and was like, "Yeah, I shared my location and it was really positive for us." Being a therapist, I, Ashley and I often hear stories of situations that don't go well, right? And so it has been something that I've heard in therapy and just in my personal life of people who've like shared locations and then like had issues later because that information was just felt, heard, received in a way that was hurtful. Um, but again, that's the bias of like maybe hearing people's stories that aren't happy stories. So I'd like to know a different one if people have them, or just give more evidence to what I already think's true.
yeah.
Confirm.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. So that was one question I kind of want to open the floor to. Um, in this situation, it seems like it proves anxiety like correct, right? That like, okay, because for Taylor or this song to know that this person did that, you had to be looking, right? Like it's not just going to be like unless there are notifications. I guess I don't know the system well enough. It's possible she got a notification, but um I believe you have to look to see what somebody is up to. So that I'll just leave that there. Um she also says, I may never open up the way I did for you. And so I was wondering, what is it like for you to be vulnerable with others? Like, is that a common thing where it's really difficult for you? Um, and what are you still questioning from this relationship? Is there anything that you're still kind of wondering, like, okay, was this real? Was this not? Because it comes off as um, it sounds like confusion, right? Like, did this mean anything to you or not?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is it like to breathe clean air? Which I also, obviously, like, there's a lot of interpretation we could do with that. Um, but it reminds me of So Long London a little bit of like, I'm getting color back into my face.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she says, I still miss the smoke. So that gives me a picture of like obviously like sitting in smoke is not healthy, but she misses it and wants it. Um, and so I just wanted to throw that out there. And then I've also seen, on a funnier note, memes of this lyric with Eras Tour pictures. Like it's been 6 weeks since the Eras Tour ended, and I still miss it, which is so fair
Yeah.
and same.
Hmm.
Um, okay, more questions. What would it be like for you to know he understands the effects of the pain he caused?
Woof. Love that question, Ashley.
I think it's really hard for us to move on from pain if we don't acknowledge, even just for ourselves, what the effects of actions were. Um, and then, you know me, I'm feeling logistical. Are the habits on his part, your part? Is this something we need to work on? They can die screaming. So, do we have some sort of addiction going on? Do we need to come up with a recovery plan? Just, you know, thinking that logistically. So, those were my questions. I'd love to hear yours.
Oh, such good questions. I just want to give a shout out to the question you asked about, like, can you take your pain seriously, even if this other person doesn't? Because it's my observation and an experience as well that, like, when we as humans experience hurt, it feels important in the move and process to know that the other person sees the hurt, that at least they recognize like this is the damage I feel like I'm living with right now. And that's not always something we can get for a variety of reasons. And so we have to move into being willing to do that ourselves. Like, even if that person doesn't acknowledge it, I will acknowledge it for myself. So I love that you highlighted that point. I think it's a really important step in healing from hurt.
Yeah.
So the questions I would ask, I'm going to use a lyric you already referenced. My longings stay unspoken, and I may never open up the way I did for you. And I want to ask, what longings stay unspoken? And could you say them for yourself? If we were to back the pages on this story, what part of yourself do you feel like you may not be able to open up to in the way that you did for this relationship? What was this person able to access within you? How did they create safety? How did they create, what dynamic was present that activated or like revealed some part of yourself in the relationship? And I think that it's okay to recognize that sometimes we have a particular relationship, whether that's a place, person, a job, whatever, that can be unique and remain the same with that person. And then we can create something different or new with somebody else, and it can be similar in some ways and different in others, and it's okay. So just to add, I guess I'm kind of moving into like the encouragement piece, but like there's this idea that just because we have something with one person, uh, it's okay for that to never be exactly replicated with somebody else, and okay to have something similar but different with someone else, or a different job or a different place or whatever that may be.
Hmm. Yeah, it is okay. And it's hard. Like, even if it's like unhealthy, right? Like missing the smoke, sometimes that stuff is hard to get over.
Yes, yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to talk more about missing the smoke and like another like question we're going to unlock. And I tie this into a different song on TTPD, so I'm excited to get your feedback on that, Ashley.
Ooh.
Um, the last thing that I would probably ask is, he said that you needed a brave man. What sort of bravery did you feel like you needed to access through this person or relationship? And is there a way that you can access that for yourself in a different way?
That's really good.
Them's the questions.
Yeah, I
Moving
feel
on.
like I'm still processing the last one.
Oh, okay.
It's so
We can
good.
pause. Take a pause. Let's go, Ashley.
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll probably come back to that theme. It's really good. Yeah. Um, so let's do some validation. Being somebody's second choice is hard, as well as being considered a habit. So the way that I'm hearing this song is old habits die screaming. I'm hearing that as for the other person. Like this person has returned to me over and over and over again because it's comfortable or because they don't want change. Um, I'm just interpreting. Um, so that's hard. That feels like, okay, always the bridesmaid, never the bride type of situation.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and then old patterns are hard to break. So old habits, old patterns, like it is very difficult for us, even like neurologically, to change the way that things happen in work, but it's
Yeah,
possible.
it is.
Um, and then also, again, just the desire for him to acknowledge pain can help you move on. And if that's not there, it makes it harder.
Yeah. I really like that you like highlight the habit being the other person because my interpretation was always the opposite. That Taylor was singing that she was the one with the habit she couldn't quit. This other person was the habit.
It could be, but like the hazing, was it, like were
Yeah.
you just continuing to come back to me because you wanted to see what I would do? Or, you know,
Yeah. Oh,
or was she hazing herself?
ooh, you're right. You're right. It does go both ways.
I think it does.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I hadn't actually connected that it moved both ways. I kind of just pictured this like her towards the recipient of the song, not or the subject of the song, not necessarily the subject back to her. But that checks out.
I feel proud because you have given me those moments so many times on this podcast.
Score, Ashley. Ashley got a point. Cheers
Woo!
for Ashley, everyone.
I do think it could be either, though. I don't think it's entirely clear.
Yeah, I no, I agree with you. I think it can go either way, but I just like that you pointed out that it could go from the subject back to her. Huh, okay. That's cool. I like it. I like it. Thanks for giving me something to think about there.
I just had another thought
Oh, I want to know. What is it?
because is it because he's already with somebody new? Like rebound after rebound after rebound?
Like the hazing is like you're going to somebody new. You're
The
like
old
putting
habit.
this is the old habit. It could be.
I don't know. Because like I could also see a world in which this person is like, okay, like we're gonna get together. This is gonna be great. This is how it's meant to be very
Yeah.
quickly after a relationship. And then like, never mind, I'm on to the next. And this is my
Yeah.
old habit.
Yes. So I think what's like hitting me is like how many like layers there is to this song. Like there's the layer of like old habits you're going on to somebody new, right? After like dumping me is kind of the implication of the song. Then there's the implication that like our relationship is a bad habit or an old habit, maybe like a familiar one. Oh, this is very, very meta. This is very much a dream within a dream.
I feel like it's just art, right? Like that's why
Yeah,
art is so cool.
yeah, that's yeah, that's so good.
It's not just art. It's Taylor art, which is superior, but you know.
That's right. Shout out Taylor. It's at another level. I mean, it is like I think what I love about all of her lyrics, and I think what inspires and enables this podcast is that there are so many different ways to interpret her music. And
Mhm.
so, and particularly this album, I think that she just is at a mastery level of weaving together um, stories and implying so many different outcomes through one lyric.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really excited to keep going and hear what else we're gonna uncover today.
Me too. Yeah, this is more layered than I thought when we started. So fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to validate just to bring us back?
Yes, I have like actually quite a bit that I wanted to normalize from this. When Taylor sings, I hope it's shitty at the black dog, and basically wishing ill on this person who's at this bar without her. I think I just want to highlight that it's okay to not wish your exes well. I think that it's a noble thing to want to do that, but I don't know that it's necessary. And if you have different opinions or if our listeners do, put it in the comments. I want to read what you have to say. The reason I'm saying this is I think there's a difference between wanting harm to befall someone and withholding your well wishes. And in this song, it sounds like you are wanting harm to befall, or at least like you're wishing something bad on somebody else. And I think that's a very different experience than saying, like, I don't feel like I can wish you well. And I think it's okay to withhold well wishes. I don't know that we have to do that part. But what we see in the song is something different where it's like, I actually hope that it's bad for you, which, while understandable, I think is different than what I'm trying to say. Um,
I think the the way that I hear that lyric is like I interpret it like, on your worst days, like I had a day a couple of weeks ago that like suddenly I realized my jeans were ripped and I spilled something on myself and I was late and like it's just like everything stacks up. Like
yes.
and by the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I hope that, this person on the road just like, is who cuts me off is like listening to the worst version of whatever song they're listening to. Or, like it's just like I just hope that, like, whatever stupid thing. Like I also hear in this lyric, like, I hope the floors are sticky.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the song is out of tune. And, like just like kind of immature, but like funny,
Yes. Yes. Like a pettiness to it. It's just like that
petty.
petulant, yeah.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Yes. I hear that too, and I actually agree with you. I think that's more in like authentic to like the message of that lyric. I think that I'm just taking it to like a deeper level and just saying like if we really carried this out and took it quite literally, like I think it's okay to not have to wish something that's harmed you or hurt you well.
Yeah.
That is a different experience than I think wishing harm on somebody else. And I don't hear that harm is being wished. I just hear the pettiness. So I'm kind of taking it a little bit literally here.
I think
But just
that's good. Yeah.
I think that it's a normal thing to miss parts that are not the best parts or even things that hurt us. So this is referenced in the lyric 6 weeks of breathing clean air. I still miss the smoke. Uh, So I just want to tie this into the song I Can Fix Him No Really I Can, because
Ooh.
that song opens with the smoke cloud billows out his mouth like a freight train through a small town. Ashley, your face. If our listeners are not watching this, just go to like this minute in the video so you can like watch Ashley's face.
I love how you make connections like this. It makes me so happy.
I just think that I don't know what that means other than like it seems like she's referring to the same person, and like smoke is a metaphor for this person. Um, But how I take this to mean is that old habits are hard to break, hence that lyric, old habits die screaming. And I think it's okay for something to end and for that to be the right decision that it ended and to still miss what you had, even if that thing wasn't serving you well. So, I think we can see this in all kinds of ways. Maybe somebody's like using a substance, let's say it's like weed or something like that, and then that person decides at some point it's no longer a good choice for their life. You can quit and then also miss certain functions and aspects of the substance. Like that's okay because things are rarely one relationship, just like with food, for example. Like it's energy, it's social, it's emotional, it's pleasure. Like it's a lot of different things. We have different relationships to it. And so it's okay to even acknowledge the things that have been very harmful in your life. Maybe there is like maybe a harsher substance that has been very harmful to your life and saying like I miss some of the things that came along with that, even if I've decided that's no longer a good choice for my life.
Hmm. I love that you highlighted that. That's really, really important.
Thank you. That's all I have for the normalization and validation.
Oh, that's all.
That's all. I'm all done.
Yeah. No,
Ashley, do
that
you want
was
to
really
take
good.
us? Thank you. Do you want to take us to the next section?
Sure. So, some recommendations. A common thing that can happen for human brains is to generalize. So if this one experience happened, I'm going to assume that can happen anytime, will happen every time, that kind of thing. So I have one thing to keep in mind. So just because this happened once with one person doesn't mean it will happen again with somebody else. Um, you're gonna laugh with old habits. If it's something that you're trying to get away from, we use something called HALT. So if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, be aware that you're going to be more susceptible to those things that you don't want to partake in. Again, the logistical brain.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and then I would recommend having support from others because the song also there's a lot of like grief, anger, and sadness, like we said, but I also hear loneliness. Like I think deep down, there's like, okay, if none of this other stuff was happening, then maybe I wouldn't be so lonely.
Hmm.
Um, so finding support in other ways can be helpful. What recommendations did you have?
Oh, that's so good, Ashley. I just added that emotional fantasies are a normal experience and it's okay to have them. I mean, who hasn't been in the shower fantasizing about what you would say or do if you could relive a particular moment, whether that's positive or negative? And oftentimes they tend to be like the negative things that we go through that we're like rehearsing how we would respond.
Hmm.
um, to take care of yourself as well. Clearly, like the song and the writer of it is in quite a bit of pain. And so I'm going to reference some lyrics. Um, and this I feel like is kind of that like angry accusation, questioning piece. But were you making fun of me with some esoteric joke? Now I want to sell my house, set fire to all my clothes, and hire a priest to come and exorcise my demons, which is so dramatic. But again, if we just take out the drama for a second and like literally pay attention to like how physical those things are, grief involves a physical aspect as well. It's not simply just being in our feelings or being in our head. Like maybe you really do need to burn something that was, related to that relationship or that place. Maybe you need to throw something away. Like if you feel like you need to hire a priest, maybe come to therapy and talk about that. We can process that decision. But genuinely, there's some practical ways to process grief and anger physically, and it's really important to do so. And then finally, if you still can't believe it, like if you're just sitting there going, like, I just have a hard time accepting this, how can you practice and move into acceptance? And let's just define what acceptance is. Um, it is saying, there it is. It's that simple. It's acknowledging your feelings, it's processing them, it's moving forward as if the thing that just happened really did happen. It's true, it's real, and it means living in light of that what happened. Um, it's facing it without making it more or less than what it is. I think to your point too, Ashley, like not making more of it and not making less of it. You're just letting it be what it is without having to add or subtract.
Hmm. Yeah, I would like to highlight something that you said and maybe ask a follow-up question. You said there are ways to include, I don't remember the exact words that you said, but include your body in like processing grief and anger. And I'm wondering if you have any like specific ideas for how someone would do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that's really creative and how we can go about that. But it's paying, I think it comes in paying attention to what your body really wants to do. So maybe like in the heat of the moment, maybe you feel like you want to run. Maybe you feel like you want to kick something or rip something, throw something. Could you find items to actually do that with that are not going to harm yourself, others, or property? Did you find an appropriate space to let those like physical impulses come out? Same thing with grieving. Oftentimes that accompanies tears, and people have a variety of reasons why they may not want to cry, but let yourself cry. And then sometimes there's rules like, well, I'm not going to let myself cry aloud. And it's like, well, what if you actually used your voice? Like, what if you allowed your lungs to heave and your shoulders to shake, and you just physically allowed like the heaviness to like make your body small and you just curled up? That's a way of expressing physically with your body sadness. And that's just a couple examples. I mean, they can be bigger or smaller than that. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's really cool. I know that's something that you like to do as a therapist, so I thought I'd give you some time to geek out.
I do. Thank you. I will always geek out over expressing our feelings through our bodies. I love it. Anything that you would challenge, Ashley?
Yes. This one feels deep. All of this is deep. If someone puts you in the background, believe them.
Immediately, I want more detail.
I think there are times where we feel like we need to win somebody's attention or convince somebody that you're worthwhile.
Ooh,
And if somebody is making you go through that amount of work, I think it might be time to consider letting that person go.
wow. Ashley, could you like answer this question for me when you said like believe them? What is it that you're interpreting needs to be believed?
So the way that I'm interpreting this song is like there's these like short-term times where things work out, or like she says, I can't remember the exact lyric. It's something along the lines of like, didn't it matter to you too?
Mm-hmm.
Did any of this matter to you?
Yeah, like I don't understand how you don't miss me.
Yes, thank you. I don't understand how you don't miss me. Thank you. Um, and to me, that screams somebody who thought that they were a bigger part in this other person's life than they really were. And we don't know that that person's not missing her in the black dog. We don't know.
Yeah.
But if they aren't, or if they aren't thinking about her, or if they aren't making your, if you're feeling as a significant other that you are not taking a priority, or in any other relationship, based on somebody's actions, so maybe they're not saying it, but they're acting as if you don't matter. Um, Obviously, like if you can have a conversation about your feelings, it could be there's some misinterpretation. So don't just go assuming like because somebody didn't say hi in the hallway that there's an issue, right? We don't want to take like surface level things, but this doesn't seem surface level.
No.
Um, so allowing, again, acceptance, basically like what you said, like accepting the fact that this person is not making you a priority and changing like your expectations for that relationship.
Ooh. We're a little short on time, but like the expectations piece that you're naming, I absolutely agree with and just want to emphasize that like how you expect something to go or not go will shape your experience of it. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I also said, speak your longings. I think that's been a theme in some of this album and the other songs we've talked about too. Like, are there conversations that need to be had that either you don't feel confident in having, don't feel comfortable because it's like an unsafe situation, or simply don't want to? Would it
Yeah.
be a healthier situation for you and the other person if you were able to say some of those things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. And those things don't have to be said to the other person if the situation doesn't allow.
Yeah.
Just saying them aloud for yourself is actually worthwhile and important.
Yeah. What would you recommend or challenge? Sorry.
Yeah. Kind of similar to you, I would say that it's possible to move forward from heartbreak even without all your questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
Because this song does ask a lot of questions. And that's a very normal thing for somebody who's been hurt to want to ask the person who did the hurting or the situation, why? What did I do to deserve this? Was it my fault? And while these questions are very fair, they often function as a way for your brain to make sense of the situation. And emotions are not processed in our brains alone, it's processed in our bodies. So practicing acceptance for what you need and allow your brain to live in the limitations of what you know. Because something else that can happen is we can create narratives in our mind. Like, oh, this is why they did what they did. This is what they were trying to accomplish with this behavior. And that all speaks to motive. And motive is a guess. And part of acceptance means this is the facts of what I know, and I'm going to live with that fact, knowing that I want to assign motivation. I want to create more meaning out of it, but I'm not going to make more meaning out of it than I have information.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's really
That's
good.
it. That's the challenge there. And
Okay.
how about encouragement?
Um, yeah, pretty simple on my end. The habits can die, and the pain you feel won't last forevermore.
Mm, forevermore. And that's a lovely connection to the album Evermore for those of our listeners who may not have caught that. So yes, the pain will not be forevermore. It's so good.
What did you have?
I encouraged, well, there's a lyric that goes 6 weeks of breathing clean air. And I wonder if that's a metaphor for health. And if so, what are those healthy, clean things that you are doing or surrounded by that you can continue? Um, and let's explore it a layer deeper. Is that smoke something that just cleared out naturally because smoke does dissipate? Or did you move yourself to a place with cleaner air? Did you open a window if you couldn't get out of the room? Like, what are those choices? Some things like time does like help facilitate, and sometimes those choices have to be intentional. And then with that, moving forward is tending to the mundane with kindness, tenderness, and accommodation. Keep doing those things. Healing is not glamorous, it's gritty, it's micro choices, and it can even be boring at times. And that's
That is so good. That is so good.
thank you. Uh, Thank you to our listeners for joining us in this song. It was just wonderful to get to process it. Shout out to Jared for asking us to talk about it. Ashley, any final thoughts?
I saw a man on a plane with a shirt from the Black Dog, and I really wanted to talk to him about it, but I didn't.
Oh, so sad, Ashley. What a story. I get why you didn't, though. I respect. Respect for your choice. But yes, I would have had the exact same impulse.
That's all I had to say.
Well, thanks again, listeners. And we look forward to hanging out with you at our